Security Halt podcast. Let's go.
You're dealing with an expert in guerrilla warfare. With a man who's the best. With guns, with knives, with his bare hands. A man who's been trained to ignore pain, ignore weather, to live off the land. Job was to dispose of enemy personnel. To kill. Period. Win by attrition.
Today, Abel Rodriguez from Healing the Hero and Tactical Resilience. Welcome to Security Halt podcast, man. It's round 2. We tried making round 1 work, but Riverside wasn't coming through for us. So I will take that up the chain and see if they'll fix some issues.
Yeah, for sure.
Abel, thank you for being here today, man. You are leading the charge in helping those that need the most help. That's our first responders and military veterans, but in any sort of outreach or support endeavor, like there has to be a story, at least from my experience, there's always a story of you're helping build something that you wish you had when you were going through, your worst days. So let's dive into it, my man. Like, why Healing the Hero? Why is this something that's beneficial? And how did you find yourself working in this?
That's a great question. So good morning, Denny. Grateful to be here. Dan right now, like he would be on, but he was on a call with a client. Thank you for your service and your diligence to our community. And thank you to all the vets and first responders out there that get to see this, and family members too, because they serve with us. So our why, it comes from the reality that a lot of us find ourselves with the bad ideas of like, okay, if I remove myself from this equation because I'm going through all this hard stuff, then everything will be better, right? And that's obviously not true because of a lot of reasons. And the founder, Dan Jarvis, he actually found himself in a place where he was going to hurt himself. And he was interrupted by the kids in the upstairs apartment making noise, and that kind of broke his state of despair. And then he fell asleep, and the next morning he got a phone call that one of his soldiers, and it's all on our website, one of his soldiers had actually ended himself that same night. So being faith oriented as he is, he prayed really hard, and Lord, we got to find a way to keep this from happening to anybody else. We got to do our part. We really have to lean into this and find a different way, a different form of doing this that gets all those barriers out of the way. And this is the evolution of that, where we are now. I think we're like at 5.7 or something like that of this evolution. And what he came up with was basically peer to peer. You know, if we have enough peers that can help each other out of these moments and then help each other thrive after that, that's the way to go, because it doesn't require any other input from any other organization or department or an appointment and all that kind of stuff. So that's been his mission for the last six plus years. And I came in 2.5 years ago through a friend of mine that had referred me over to Dan, and then I worked with Dan on my anger. Didn't even realize anger was bad, because anger had kind of served me a lot.
For the entire veteran and specifically the soft community, it's like our multi-tool.
Man, this is a really dumb thing we're about to do. I'd rather be mad than worried or scared here. So let's go ahead and just get. So anyways, so he helped me out with that, and I couldn't believe how quickly it disconnected the root cause of my anger, which of course comes from our childhood, right? Yeah. Something early on taught us that was it. That was to go to. So my immediate next question to him was, Dan, how do I give back? And his answer was become a coach. So I've been doing that with the original nonprofit that he founded, 22-0. Yep. And he also founded Anxiety Guys and now Tactical Resiliency and Healing the Hero. But I work with them, and now the evolution of it that we feel the calling is to kind of have the faith-based element to it. There's a lot of it that there's a lot of us that believe in some higher power, and we found that that's a really, really useful tool to bring into the equation. And if, for instance, I would say, imagine yourself standing wherever, but Jesus Christ is there with you. That's a whole nother feeling of safety and acceptance and love than that you would get from just being there alone and having to face it all alone.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So Dan has served in the infantry. He was a drill sergeant. He's been to Afghanistan and Iraq. He's been blown up multiple times, and that's what brought him to where he was. He's also he was also a sheriff deputy down in Seminole County in Florida, and that was part of his journey that brought him to where he was. And for me, you know, I was the best group in the world, 7th group, and I retired from group in 2017. But before that, I was in the infantry, and that brings us to the present, where the last couple of years, 2.5 years, it's just been trying to make this work. Where, you know, I still have to do some contracting here and there, but yeah, making this work has been amazing, and just seeing people heal and the gratitude that they feel is just a real motivator to continue to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our where we come from and our why.
Yeah.
There.
You know, let's dive into this protocol, because it's completely different. Like we tend to think of mental health as something that's completely dependent on medical professionals only within, you know, psychology and psychiatry. We're only now starting to talk about positive psychology. We're only now starting to talk about peer-to-peer support, which have been quietly pushed into the forefront, because the reality is we're in a crisis. We have a critical shortage of trained professionals in every field, but we have a surplus of individuals that have healed, individuals that have found things that work for them, whether it's standard or non-standard. And when somebody gets better and somebody continues to be on their path of healing and on their journey of well-being, the first thing they want to do is give back and reach out. And that's why peer-to-peer support works. And at Security Hall, we're no different. We have longstanding peer-to-peer support. And the reason why it's effective, the reason why it works, is because when you need it, it's there. When you get to that point where you're like, you know what, I think I'm ready to go to a treatment center. I think I'm ready to talk to a therapist. Then you already built that connective tissue. You already built that bridge to connect that person to the idea and the actual process of saying, you know what, I'm going to give this modality a shot. And I think what you guys are providing is a little bit more than peer-to-peer, because you're actually giving them something, which is that protocol. Let's dive into that. What's that? Why is your protocol different?
Man, it's so different. And that's a great question. So my mind said, hey, we got to think outside the box, right? That's the way we're encouraged to do that so much throughout our career. Like, no, that's why we left the regular Army, right? Like, you don't fit in here. You're always outside of what we try to do. Okay, that makes sense. Anyways, so being that, finding a way outside the box, right? Outside of like having to make a VA appointment, or having to go make an appointment with a shrink, or having your appointment canceled, and so on and so forth. So so let me just be clear. I want to clarify. Okay, what we don't do is that we don't dispense any clinical services or treatment or diagnosis. I say that because some of our coaches are practitioners; they're licensed practitioners. However, the vast majority of our coaches are just nugs like me, or better, right? They're veterans, firefighters, police officers, corrections, everything to Gold Star family members to their dependents, right? So we gear our audience, we gear our program, our protocol to our audience, right? Which is all first responders and veterans and their dependents and Gold Star and so on. So that's what we don't do. We don't We don't have to disclose anything to anybody. So we don't have to worry about anybody in our chain of command finding out, or we don't have to worry about our security clearance getting any kind of issue with that. So what we do is that, well, we train peer coaches, right? The peer is going to be somebody that you already trust, that is in your circle, immediate circle, and that it's going to be more accessible. So we offer a non-clinical modality of intervention that we call it like a mindfulness exercise. That's really what it is, in a way, in the majority of it. So therefore, our clients, they don't have to describe any of the details of the memory. So that's huge, right? The regular modalities through the clinics and all that stuff is even EMDR, exposure therapy. You have to disclose all that. And I think some of the new alternative stuff with chemical based, it's kind of same kind of thing. So what we figured out is that without having to disclose everything about that memory, we could touch that memory and then trick the brain into reframing the information that was associated with that memory. So you still have the memory, you still remember what happened, but the memory doesn't carry the triggers of the emotions anymore. It carries new learnings. So for instance, something bad happened, let's say something easy. I have fear from it. The fear, it freaks me out. I have anxiety towards it, but going back and reteaching myself that that was something that I couldn't control. I did my best. I was well trained. I was the person that needed to be there. God was with me. You know, God would not have let me there if I couldn't handle it. That kind of stuff. That's way more reassuring, right? So now we come away from that with a peer coach where we didn't have to disclose anything, and we have our solution. And now when the memory gets reconsolidated in REM sleep, it goes, those emotional triggers go away. And we found that it's very, very effective. I can't say 100% because there's always those outliers, but that mess up our numbers, right? But it really, really works. And that's the reason why we have first responders and veterans and so on, is because we got to have that rapport with each other to even approach.
Yeah.
So without that, you wouldn't have the rapport to really want to talk to me, because I haven't been what you've been through, right? And not to say that we don't work with civilians or family members that haven't been through that, but that's our primary target audience, is the folks that are struggling in their everyday job. So that is what we do.
Yeah.
In the short of, in the long of it. Does that help?
Absolutely. No, and I think there's something important to be said about building that rapport. And I think when you're thinking about how this works, it's a network built of individuals that have gone through it, that understand the benefits of it, and that you, the person seeking help, can actually sit down with somebody that you feel comfortable with, that has been in the same situation or close to the same situation. So there's a feeling of trust, and that's really where you get through it. And then the other aspect I want to talk about is memory. Like, we don't talk about the process of what it actually takes to encode that memory. We think data comes in and it just goes into one part of your brain and it stays there. But the reality is, and I can tell you this, that's not the truth. It comes in.
Yeah.
And even the memories that we hold on to and we think they're concrete are actually encoded with a lot of false information. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand the reality of it. We tend to think that our memory comes in, and it's like, that's the way it happened. It's 100% concrete. But then somebody else that was there, right there with you, remembering the same situation, said, actually, no,
exactly.
You went this way and then this happens, which is why it really isn't beneficial to go through this over and over again, telling these stories, going through, rehashing the pain, because in your mind, your worst day, you're probably your worst critic. You failed to do X, and then this happened and this happened. And then before you know it, for years and years and years, you're blaming yourself for something that you didn't remember right, that you couldn't actually have controlled. When you're able to go through something like this, you're able to reframe it and actually process it, and actually, and you know, I talk about this book a lot, The Body Keeps a Score. Bessel van der Kolk, he explains it in that book as well. that trauma is locked in us. And if you don't address it, if you don't go back and deal with it, it stays with you. It stays in the body.
Oh yeah.
I want to talk about the successes you've had. I think last time we talked with Dan, said you guys were able to actually sit down with some other SF brothers and actually go through it. And you guys had really good success with those individuals.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, just wanted to clarify one thing before we continue, is that this is what we do is not a one shot and done, and that's that's all you need to do for your life, right? This is just like the first step so that you can get counseling. Cognitive therapy will work better, right? But you're not triggered by the emotions. You're not having to suffer through it again. So that's the good part. And so you're right about our memories, right? We remember them differently than the guy next to us because our perceptions are different. So that's logical. And the real root of them is that it comes from our childhood. We learn how to deal with our present the way we were brought up and the experiences that we had. So a lot of us have taken bad lessons from childhood and carried them on into our adult life. And that manifests itself in a number of ways, right? But to get back to your point, so we went out to San Antonio to work with another nonprofit. And that nonprofit has their modality where they have a very holistic approach, but they also do a brain scan that shows what the brain is actually doing and how triggered the brain is or how damaged the brain connectivity is. So we went out there. There was 4 SF, pretty senior or very senior enlisted that were there that we got a chance to work with. We did 2 sessions with each one of them over a 2-day period, and then we left. So then Dan reached back out to find out the results of the brain scans, and 3 of the 4 had major shifts.
Wow.
Like major shifts, like notable shifts, like from the beginning of the week when they had their first scan to the Friday when they finished. One of them didn't. And that's normal. That's why I'm saying it's not 100%. Because if the person doesn't want to do the visualization exercises, which is a guided mindfulness exercise, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work for whatever reason they choose to do that, right? They don't trust us, or they have a personality issue or a chemical issue even, could be. But that's the truth. And we have a whole lot more of data. Dan worked with a police officer from Pennsylvania, I believe, and they did a test on her before, or the brain scan on her with Dr. Hagedorn he works with MARSOC primarily out of North Carolina. And they did a brain scan with her before Dan worked with her, and they did one the next day after he had worked with her. Day and night difference. So our brains are that powerful that our memories are that powerful that if we hang on to them in the wrong way, they're going to run our life. That's just the reality of it. And that's what, thank God, we're able to disconnect, is the negative memories from, the negative emotions from those memories. So the memories are still there. They just don't trigger us anymore.
And it's tricky too, because you talk to anybody, and specifically guys or gals are really in it, really locked in. They almost don't want to let go of that trauma because it feels like an intimate companion. It feels like something that belongs to them. Like they want to continue that. And the reality is you have to be an active and willing participant in your recovery. You have to want to do it. You have to want to do the work, and no one can heal you. No one can do the work for you. Nobody can get inside your mind and force you to do the visualization so that this works. And you have to be in that present moment awareness that you're wanting to overcome this. And that goes for everything. When you're working on your protocol with somebody, how does that conversation engage? I mean, it's obviously they're there, they want to be, but I would imagine that there's been some times you've met somebody. It's like, well, I don't think you're really here for this. I feel a little bit of hesitation.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had the privilege of working with a lot of vets, and you get those vets that they have that identity, their self identity, encased in their trauma.
Yes. Yep.
So they kind of have to let that carcass fall away. They have to morph into somebody else, and that's a scary thing because they're so used to that,
Yep.
right? We go to what's familiar with. So yeah, you're right, and that's why we do ours like this, right, over a video conference or FaceTime or whatever, so that we can kind of see their reactions.
Yep.
We don't push them anywhere, right? We just ask them to bring up what they need to bring up, and just by simply saying, "Hey, what's the first time you remember X emotion or whatever, and then what was that moment?" So if they do the exercise and they go there, they'll get the satisfaction of knowing that it's disconnected at the end. They'll feel it.
Yep.
They'll feel it. They start during our sessions, as we start getting towards the end. I'll see their shoulders drop. I'll see their breathing start to, kind of give more size. Like they're not pulling this anymore. They're not carrying that 800-pound gorilla on their back. They even start to yawn because the body mind connection
Yep.
is letting go of the stress. It's releasing them. Yeah, their identity is huge with it, and we know the deal, man. When you're working with someone you have never met before, but they're in your presence, you got to build rapport with them quick. And we connect over our service, obviously, and then we connect on in how they look forward on being free of their triggers. And it's been wild, man. I worked with a gentleman earlier this week that had treatment resistant depression.
That's big within our community. That's a big one.
Right. And he came back to me 2 days later in an email and stating that he's done everything that the VA has out there, and he's even doing some of the chemical stuff too. This should be before any of that, just to disconnect the triggers and let the other modalities take their effect too, because we are multifaceted, right? We're very deep people, individuals. So, and that was very 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 reassuring, and I'm grateful to him for sharing his thoughts with me.
Yeah.
At the same time, I was working with a firefighter, uh, about to retire, like almost at the end of his career. This man had 7 different traumas throughout his career that he was still struggling with. And as I'm working with him, he is like almost in pain. It looks like just his face is long, and as I started helping him disconnect these, man, he got a smile on his face. So I asked him, "How are you feeling right now?" Man, I haven't felt this good in a long time. So for me, that's very gratifying, just to know that little old me was able to get trained in a modality that is blessed the way it is, and that I'm able to bring happiness back to a family. No, this is no joke. What Dan has been doing over the last 6 years has actually helped people conceive, that people that couldn't conceive because of stress. And that blows my mind. Yeah. Are you kidding me? There's another human, that's pretty heavy level stuff.
I mean, that there's a direct correlation to that. That's stress. Yeah. I mean,
the body keeps the score. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's insane. I can't even, and the thing that did you ever imagine as a Green Beret that this would be something you'd be doing in your life?
No, absolutely not. Well, I think a lot of folks think the same way, and we're like, okay, I want to make a difference, and I want to do it at the next level, right? And how can I do that with where I'm at? Okay, well, we go through this training, we put ourselves through the grinder, we come out the other side, and then we start to work, and we get upgrades every now and then with more and more training, right? With more and more capacity. So I wanted to do something to help folks, right? How do I give back? And now that I'm retired, and I just think it's a blessing that I was able to connect with Dan, and actually my friend that connected me with Dan. You know how things
Yeah.
go. Uh, the coincidences, they're not coincidental. They're guided. And here we are. And no, that's a great question. I never thought I would be doing this. I was too angry to know what I was going to want to help.
Guys get out and they think that their life has to be, just completely consumed by one aspect of what it means to be a warfare. And
Yeah,
you close off every other option, every other possibility. I got to do contracting. I got to do this. It's like, dude, you're more than that. You're not just a badass weapon
yeah,
of war. You're more than that. You can be a healer. You can bring closure. You can help others come home. Like, a lot of guys are here, but they're not home yet. Like, and
yeah,
the thing that I think it's really important for all of us, whether you're infantry, special forces, CCT, Marine, airman, whatever you are, at the end of the day, you are human first. If you're
yeah,
in a place of help, if you're in a good place, if you're stable and you're happy and you're thriving, find a way you can give back. Like, I don't think we talked about that enough while we were in uniform. I know I didn't hear
yeah,
anything about that. I didn't hear anything about giving back or being connected and supporting others. But I got to imagine, like, it, even for my endeavors, it completely feeds back more positivity into your own life. And I can only imagine
yeah,
what it does for you now in this endeavor, being able to help on a daily basis individuals come home. And I mean, do you ever reflect on that, just pausing and being like, holy shit, like, at one point in my life, I was this badass Green Beret. Now I'm helping others heal.
yeah. That's a great question. Yeah, I think it's funny because we have a lot of humor in my family. So when you say being a badass Green Beret, right? I brought that up to my kids one day. Your dad's a badass, and they're like, "Shut up, Dad." So that was humbling, right?
Yeah.
But um, I yeah, it's a blessing to be able to give back. I I never realized how important it was. It wasn't part of my childhood to give back
Yeah.
like this, um, or to give to charity much. Or we did stuff with church, but it wasn't like this. But to be able to spend time or actually be made capable of doing it is
Yeah.
a fantastic thing, um, and it just makes me another person out there that can help in a way that's not judgmental, in a way that doesn't take 2 month long wait on an appointment. I'm not going to cancel on you. Haven't had to cancel an appointment yet. So if there's a lot of folks of us in our community that come out and man, they are high functioning individuals, right? I mean, they come out and they go to work for some major companies. They come out and they start their own businesses, podcasting
Yeah.
guys, right? They're so handsome mostly. And, they,
Those guys suck. We
yeah,
need
they do
less of
some,
them.
I know you do. We're going to raise you up. Don't worry about it. This is going to raise your ratings for sure and your viewers. But yeah, we have a lot of high functioning individuals. I I came out of the like not I came out to retirement not really feeling as badass as you may
Yeah.
think. So um, I'm I'm not like those guys that are super high functioning and start a company and make 50 jobs for 50 people and um, that wasn't my calling. And that's funny because Dan and I were talking about that just yesterday, and he reminded me because I was telling him, "Hey Dan, this is so fantastic that I'm not a psychologist. I'm not even a counselor or anything like that. I'm just a dad, a husband, a friend, a veteran." And he told me, "Hey man, remember that God doesn't choose or call the qualified. God will qualify the call."
Exactly.
And man, that's a very, very empowering
Yeah.
way to think about it because any one of us can make a huge impact on the life of another veteran. Now, most of the folks that I talk to are not actively suicidal, but they still are struggling with something. They're carrying some heavy weight, and they just want to let it go. And they've tried so many other things, and they have not been able to let it go. And it's emotional. So once we can disconnect the emotions, the healing has even more profound effects. So, like I said before, like cognitive therapy or marital therapy, whatever it is, whatever other modality, it would have much more effect. So, yeah, I would encourage anyone to at least give it a shot to see it for themselves. It's 100% free to any veteran, first responder, Gold Star family, and even their dependents. So there's really nothing to lose. And it's given me a lot back, just being able to be satisfied that I feel I've been called a little.
Yep.
So I'm gonna show up for my Creator and see where he needs me to be, where he needs me to go.
Yeah,
and that's what brings us here.
Absolutely, man. It like I said a little bit ago, like our community's problems are best fixed by us. No one's coming.
Yeah.
Like we tend to think that lawmakers are sitting down right now, hammering out a way to address suicide and address the broken VA system and address pay and all these things, but they're not. They're not. That's a simple truth. That's not happening today. It's not happening tomorrow, not next year or the next year. It doesn't matter who's in office. It's not going to happen. So if we really want to stop suicide rates from increasing every year, and if we really want to make sure our friends are here tomorrow and the day after that, we have to start being active participants in programs like this. Being willing to be a peer-to-peer support, being willing to actually, the first step is being willing to get help. Like if the number one thing, if you are about to get in a firefight, who are you looking out for? You're fucking shooting rounds. You're taking cover and you're turning fire, right? If you're hurting, you got to get your weapon system up and running. And that's this. You got to get somewhere to get help.
Yeah.
You can't help anybody else until you get your weapon system up and running and you start shooting out some rounds down range. And that's mental health 101. Get to a position where you can actually do something. So that means you got to take care of yourself first. But when you get better, you can help somebody else. And that's what all of us need to do. Be willing to get better, to help somebody else so that we can start this grassroots movement of veterans becoming peer-to-peer support facilitators.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's the truth. Like we keep looking towards others to like, I need you to go to college and become a mental health practitioner so you can help everybody. Well, you know, we don't have enough people going to that field. So it's up to you to go find these programs and get certified to become a peer-to-peer support coach. And it's not easy, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
Yep. Absolutely worth it. Yeah.
No.
And it's worth it in multiple dimensions too. So we don't have any idea of how deep our help can go. You know, how many more dimensions of people it can transform or it can reach. So we just have to make ourselves available. I mean, we have some very brilliant people in our community, and they could be so satisfied to know that they can help in another way besides making jobs or making a lot of money that they can give back. And I mean, to each their own, but I think you're absolutely right. I mean, if we had to face a near ambush by ourselves, we're going to, of course, go cyclic, right? And we're going to be out of ammo quick. But if it's a whole team that gets ambushed, I don't have to go cyclic immediately.
Exactly.
I don't have to worry about dumping my mag if I do, because I know somebody else is taking up for me. So,
talking guns.
You're absolutely right with your analogy. Yeah. We're going to talk it through. And that's exactly what we are. And thank you for that, because I'm just trying to have our talking guns so that we don't have to face that near ambush of an emotional trigger by ourselves. And if we can disconnect it to where it's not an emotional ambush. Oh man, that's even better, because you can walk right past it and you're invisible to it.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's a good analogy, Danny. Good for you, brother. Thank you. I'm going to use that.
Feel free.
Thank you.
Now, tell us about tactical resilience, because that's the other side of it. That's the other side that's providing training, right?
Right. So with Healing the Hero, it's faith-based, and we don't care if you are faith-oriented or not. We're still going to work with you. However, for the way to bring funds to a nonprofit, because we're starting all over again, then what we're doing is we're creating a training company, which is called Tactical Resiliency USA. So we can actually we have a curriculum, we have training events that workshops, and then we can deploy and go do that for different police departments, fire departments, sheriffs, whatever, the corporate entities, whatever. And then we can create more peer coaches that way. So in the long run, we're trying to work ourselves out of a job, but we have to be able to pull resources to be able to do that, to reach as many people as we want to reach. Right. So Dan is really smart on this stuff. So he's like, hey, let's make a company that will funnel money over to our nonprofit so that we can give back to that nonprofit and grow that. So we have the way that we can train the more volunteers or more coaches, and they can be within their department. So, for instance, the same sheriff's department that he was part of, Seminole County, that's like 1,400 individuals in there. So imagine having a whole department trained. So they're having no triggered event. They're having less triggered events on the street, having less triggered events in their prisons. They're having less triggered events in their staff. What kind of a community would that make?
Yeah.
Right. So because they have the resources to help us with that, that's what tactical resiliency is doing. And it's a reality that we need resources to get out there and make websites and make these conferences possible, get our literature out. So that's why we're doing it. We're retired, so he and I are both retired. So this is, we can only do so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still doing, like I said, I'm still doing a little bit of contracting until things pick up more, but they're picking up pretty quickly. So I'm being very selective of what other things I put my energy into, because this is going to being part of the beginning of something like this. It's just amazing. And, I just see it grow every day, and
Yeah.
but that's why we have tactical resiliency. Basically, it's not for anybody to get rich off of. It's just so that we can funnel the resources over to making the peer rescue protocol, healing the hero nonprofit, making that more robust and being able to reach more.
Yeah.
So at the same time, we're departments are hard to move around, right? They don't want to shift gears, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of folks are like, hey, no, go see a doc, or a lot of the departments have a program already contracted with some counseling firm. Since this is not counseling, this is immediate peer care. We can kind of bypass that. And as the word gets out, we're hoping to make more and more coaches. Like I said, our goal is to work ourselves out of a job where everybody in our community is someone that can
Yeah.
see a brother struggling or a sister struggling or a dependent even struggling, and they can be there and help them disconnect those traumatic memories from their emotions. So that's why the tactical resiliency is there. And uh, what Dan's really excited about whatever uh, entity kind of goes with the program first, and like especially like law enforcement, because they can pretty much set the standard. Like there's a San Jose standard for something the cops do, and there's all these other ones, right? But with this peer to rescue, I mean, it's whoever gets it first is really gonna make a name for themselves, because it works. It just works, and it's such a quick way. What's beautiful about this evolution of it that Dan has evolved this to with the peer rescue protocol for the secular approach and the Jesus protocol is that it takes less time than what we were doing before.
Nice.
So I had the pleasure of working with a young lady who's close to me in the family. 5 childhood traumas, 7 total memories that were troubling her still to this day. And this is past college and all that stuff. It took me 15 minutes to help her disconnect all that. And she's sitting here across from me, and she's like, wow, what the heck did you do? I'm like, I didn't do anything. You did all the work.
Yeah.
You just allowed me to guide you. So that's the beauty of it all. But obviously to answer your question, and I apologize, I kind of ramble on
No,
this
you're good,
exciting
man.
stuff. But yeah, so Tactical Resiliency is the training arm that we can deploy trainers. We can do it virtually, but we love meeting in person. We can do workshops and um, help departments heal some of their folks. We had the pleasure and the honor to work with Stanislaus Sheriff's Department out in California in the Modesto area. And man, we worked with some of their top leadership, and I'm talking like captains, lieutenants, sergeants, and that department is looking at it like we looked at it back in our units, right?
Yep.
We start from the leadership down. If the leadership doesn't know how to do it, how can you ask the Joe to do it, right? So they have a phenomenal sheriff and a wellness program, and they're implementing it, and it's just a matter of time. I think we want to be international, and we actually have clients in England, New Zealand, Australia, and we just want to work ourselves out of a job,
Heck
brother.
yeah, man.
We want no one left behind. We want no one left in the dark that they can't reach somebody. I mean, we're all connected, right?
Yep.
And if we could just connect with a brother or sister, and they can help us disconnect something that's holding us back, that's bringing us in a negative way back to our families, our loved ones, even to our workplace. That's what we want. We want to disconnect all that. We want to have a world that is no longer triggered by some insecurities or some negative memories from their childhood, and that looks at things logically and what's best for everyone, and what's best for themselves too. And Lord willing, we'll get there slowly.
Heck yeah.
We'll get there surely. I mean,
man, awesome,
slowly
brother.
but surely.
Once again,
Yes, sir.
how can people get a hold and participate in healing the hero?
Yeah, absolutely. So, healingthehero.org is our website. You're welcome to go there. There's plenty of information on us there, and how to get a hold of us. If you want to get a hold of me directly, my email is Abel, ABEL, at healingthehero.org. If you are seeing this and you want to do the training side, it doesn't matter either way, but we also have Tactical Resiliency USA.com. And you can reach us there, Dan or Abel, at Tactical Resiliency USA.com, or Dan and or Abel at healingthehero.org. And my personal number, if you want to reach out to me, is area code 850-612-6441. And that's how the quickest way. We want to make it as easy and as simple as we can. I know Dan loves to give out his number, and I'll gladly give it out too. I don't remember these numbers right, but I think it's
no. The internet's a powerful place.
It is. No, but Dan. So that's what blows me away about Dan, is that his example is he's the founder, he's the CEO of this, and yet he gives out his personal phone number.
Yeah.
So me being his partner in this, I was going to say partner in crime, but I don't want to say crime. but his partner in this,
it's that seventh group in you.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to think about it. But anyways, if you want to reach out to Dan, and he's, like I said, he's on a call right now, but his number is area code 863-221-6304. That's 863-221-6304. My number is 850-612-6441. And we're just here to help, man. We're not here for our own gratification, other than being satisfied knowing that we did a good job, and we helped another brother or sister or family member or Gold Star family.
Hell yeah, brother.
Get over their traumas. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Abel,
yeah, and it works.
Thank you so much for being here with us, man. Again, the name of that organization is Healing the Hero. Go check them out at healingthehero.org. pause, go to the episode description on this episode right now. I'll wait, scroll down. There it is. There's a website. There's Abel's phone number. There's Dan's phone number.
Yeah.
Go ahead and give them a call. Or take their numbers and send them to everybody you know and tell them, contact these guys to get your shit fixed. Start taking care of yourselves. We don't put enough emphasis on taking care of ourselves as men, as veterans. We need to, because guess what?
Yeah.
This world, our country, is not going to get better unless we prioritize ourselves. You can't help anybody else unless you take care of yourself first. It's that old adage when you're in an airplane. What do they always tell you? Before you help somebody, put your oxygen mask on first. You get tired of hearing it. I hear it all the time, but I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself first. We need you in the fight. Not the fight that's coming in warfare speak. I'm talking about here in our country. If we want to make this a better place, if we want to help others, if we want to bring our greatness to the world, we have to take care of ourselves first. So please reach out to Dan, reach out to Abel, get in contact with healingthehero.org, and get back to being the best version of yourself. Again, Abel, thank you for being here for today. And to everybody listening, thank you so much. I really appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Till then, take care.
Thank you, Danny.
If you like what we're doing and you're enjoying the show, don't forget to share us, like us, subscribe. And remember, we get through this together. Take care.